In my high school days, I was very observant and I had learned the importance of that from the lessons that I had learned in middle school. Let's just say that a
Look
lot
at
of
this
crazy things
dude.
happened in middle school. And after going through middle school, in high school, I was very watchful of who I would hang around with more. I was more watchful of who I would call my friends. And I was very watchful of how people acted around their own friends and how they would act behind their backs, because I would see a lot of backstabbing during school of people showing a certain face to their friends, but then behind their back, they will show a whole totally different face. And I was watchful as well of the consequences of their actions, of certain students' actions, and where that would lead them to later on in life. Now, during my sophomore year, there was this one girl who she was really smart, like actually like really smart, and she was friends with one of my friends. And she had a boyfriend during this time, and during this time we were in sophomore, so we were like, well, like 16, 15 years old, I believe. Suddenly she just stopped coming to school one day, and it really made me curious during that time, because I was like, damn, like what happened to her? Like she just disappeared like out of nowhere, like just like that. I'm low-key thought like she died or something like that. Like I was like, bro, where's she at? And then a little later after that, her boyfriend stopped coming as well. Pause. She actually didn't attend the remainder of the whole year. It wasn't until the next school year that she returned that I was like even reminded that she existed, because I'm not gonna lie, she disappeared from one day after another, and like I completely forgot about her. What started as a rumor was actually true. She didn't come to school not because she was hurt or because she switched schools. She was actually pregnant during that time. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, the way she looked, I did not expect her to be the first one in school to be pregnant. Like there was a lot of girls in my school who I would look and I'd be like, yeah, she's probably gonna end up pregnant during the whole 4 years that I'm here. But I did not expect her to be the first one, especially this young. And her boyfriend returned shortly after as well. I'm not gonna lie, I think bro aged a little bit after not seeing him for a while because of all the stress maybe of having a kid. But all I know is that his life was totally different, and it was not the same as it was before when he was just a regular high school kid who had a girlfriend and didn't have a kid, because now he was tied to this girl because he got her pregnant, and when they returned she had already had her kid, so he already had a baby during this time already, and he was now working a job to try to provide for the child, to at least do something to be a man and take care of the child. He was so inconsistent with school, and like I would barely see him. Like sometimes I'll see him and the next thing you know he'll disappear and then he'll come back again. One thing that my parents told me growing up is that once you have a kid, your life will never be the same again. And it's not like your life is gonna be worse, although some people sadly do think that way, but it's just that you're not gonna be taking care of a life other than yourself. Like when you're single and you have no kids, you're basically taking care of you and you're only thinking about yourself. But once you have a kid, now you have to think and take care of another life, and your life will never be the same after that. And this was kind of like a warning to me to make sure that I don't do any dumb decisions that I can't take back at an early age. There are many ways to go about your late teens and 20s, but only a few will actually lead you towards the path that you truly desire. Your 30s will be determined by what you do when you're in your late teens and your 20s. During our teens and early 20s, our brains are still developing, and so who influences us and the decisions that we make will play a major role in how our future will form. The brain doesn't fully develop until you're around 25 years old, and so as an example, if you're 13 years old with enough influence, somebody or a group of people can convince you that robbing and stealing is good. Whereas when you're an adult and you grew up being taught that robbing and stealing is not a good thing, it's gonna be a lot more harder for a group of people to try to convince you that robbing and stealing is a good thing. When our minds is still young and developing, it is extremely important to take care of it and to also be careful what we allow in our life, because if we're not careful, we could end up being 30 years old and living a life that we truly despise, that we are just miserable every single day, and have all these habits that we find so difficult breaking that we just wish we had never started in the first place. For instance, the vast majority of men who watch porn started watching it when they were in their teenage years or pre-teens. And the other day I was watching a video on YouTube, and it was a guy who was walking around the neighborhood that is known to be full of drug addicts, and he interviewed one guy who was in his early 20s, and I'm not gonna lie, it's surprising because bro didn't even look like he was in his early 20s. He looked like he was in his 40s because of all the drugs he had consumed. And he had told him, or he has asked him when he started doing drugs, and the guy told him that he started doing it when he was in his teens, and now he finds it very hard to get out of that life. Imagine how different his life would have looked if he would have never started doing drugs when he was a teen. His life would have been completely different right now. One of the major causes of depression is feeling lost in life. When you feel lost in life, you do whatever to try to numb that feeling, and I know because I've been there. And this is where things like drugs, playing video games successfully, porn, partying. This is where all these things come into play. And what you decide to do on a daily basis all depends on the future that you look forward to creating. If you have no future to look forward to, it will be a lot more easier for you to make bad decisions that will affect you in the long term. This is why so many people regret college in their 30s and 40s. They went to college without a goal or vision in mind. They got themselves into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and they end up working a job that has nothing to do with what they studied for at the end of the day. If they would have had an idea of what they wanted their future to look like, instead of drifting and following their parents and their teachers' advice, they would have thought it through before going to college, because maybe college at the end of the day, with that idea or vision that they had, maybe that wasn't the option. Maybe it was a different road that they had to take. If you constantly make bad decisions at a younger age, a heavy price awaits you at an older age that you may not want but have to pay. I would say that one thing that is hurting most young people's lives, that hurts them in the long term, is not having any sense of direction. When you don't know what you want your future to look like, the best place to start is to at least know what you don't want it to look like. I wouldn't say that I had a very clear sense of direction during my late teens, but I did have an idea of what I didn't want, and that did help just as much, because that is what helped me not go to college and avoid getting into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt just because someone told me that I needed to do it. The difference between me now compared to back then is that not only do I know what I don't want, but I also know what I do want, and this has helped me make better decisions that has enhanced the quality of my life and make sure that I don't make any dumb mistakes. If more and more people were to have this sense of direction coming out of school, they wouldn't be as confused or as lost as they are now. They wouldn't cultivate bad habits that would later on be extremely difficult to break. Having a sense of direction really fixes a lot of problems that most people have nowadays. Problems like feeling lost, feeling depressed, having poor health, having poor finances, being lonely, and just living an overall unhappy life. Reason being because your brain is now going to work like a heat-seeking missile. It has a destination to go towards, and now it will go towards that destination. And if anything gets in the way, if you catch yourself slipping, it will correct course. Once you have a sense of direction and a destination that you look forward to, you'll be making better decisions. If the direction that you're heading towards involves being financially free, you're not gonna waste the money that you earn during the weekdays on the weekends. If the direction that you're heading towards involves being ripped and in shape, you're not gonna eat fast food every week and avoid exercise and laying on your couch. When you have a sense of direction, you also add a sense of purpose in your life. Every day will now become purposeful, and any suffering that you experience in the present moment will become worth it because of the future that you're working towards building. The pain of lifting heavy weights and going to failure becomes meaningful. Waking up early even though you're tired becomes meaningful. Putting in time to learn new skills becomes meaningful. Having a sense of direction and a destination that you look forward to going to leads to a fulfilling life. There's probably studies, research, or surveys that prove this, but I would say that finding direction in life is on almost every young person's mind. Now, I have found direction in my own life, and it has made my life extremely better. I look forward to my days, I look forward to building my future, and overall it has given my life a lot more meaning. But finding direction is not the only thing. It only lays the foundation for the rest that will impact your life immensely. And if you get these right, you will make the most out of your late teens and 20s and reap the rewards in the years to come. This first step is probably the most important, because without this, nothing will truly ever fall into place. It sets the foundation for what you will achieve in the coming years. Without this, you'll drift in life and you end up being in a place that you never desired to be, leaving you miserable. So there are two types of people. One goes wherever the wind blows. There's a lot of spontaneity because you never know where life can take you, but this person risks creating a life they never intended to live. They end up reaching their 40s and 50s regretting not putting much thought into their future. Then there's the second person who thinks of his future and creates a vision of what he would like it to be. He writes down how he wants to be health-wise, how he wants to be financially, how connected he wants to be with his relationships in life, and how fulfilled he wants to be. He works towards this vision, which gives him direction and helps him make better decisions that his future self will be glad he made. He eventually creates the life he desired, and he lives a happy and fulfilled life with little to no regrets. 27% of college graduates end up working a job that they majored in, that they studied for, which means that 73% of college graduates end up working a job that has nothing to do with what they studied for. And that's mostly because they never really had a clear vision of what they wanted their life to look like, and so they just went to college because most likely their parents or their teachers told them that that was what they needed to do. Seneca once said, "To the person who does not know where he wants to go, there is no favorable wind." So the first step is to create an emotionally connected vision for your future. So the way that I do this is that I whip out a journal or a notebook and I start writing down what I would like my life to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect, right? I'm going to be be as detailed as I can be, but I may not know certain details because it doesn't have to be perfect in the beginning. In the beginning, I just want to have an idea of what I want my future to look like. And as we start to, write it down and progress, we'll edit it if we need to. And then I write down my vision for the next 2 to 3 years. And after I'm done writing down that vision, I break it down into a year goal. And then once I have that year goal, I break it down even further into 3 months. So then I write down in the next 3 months, what goals do I need to accomplish so that I can get closer to my vision that I created for the future? You see how I'm breaking it down from 5 to 10 years all the way down to 3 months? I'm doing this because I don't want to overwhelm myself. I'm going to focus on the next 3 months on this in order to get to this 5 to 10 year goal eventually. Now, one thing that you must do is that when you're writing this vision, make sure that you make it emotionally connected to you. In other words, just make sure that it is meaningful to you. Don't create a goal or a vision that someone else told you that you need to create, or a life that you need to live. And when you become emotionally connected to a vision, you are more likely to make it a reality, especially when the hard times come. Because if the hard times come and you're not emotionally connected to the vision, you don't even care about it really, you're not gonna really continue going. You're gonna give up eventually. Now, to make sure that you stay committed to this vision and are not only interested in it, make sure that you have the 4 ingredients to commitment, which I actually made a post about a while ago. The 4 ingredients are 1, a burning desire, 2, critical task, 3, count the cost, and 4, act on your commitments with discipline. Now, after I'm done doing that, I create a vision board. Now, to create a vision board, you simply just compile 5 to 8 images of what your vision looked like. So for example, if your vision is to be in great shape, then get an image of a guy who's in great shape. Or it might be like, hey yo, but like you're trying to look at an image of how you want to look like in the future, right? So it might be like, hey yo, why you have an image of some dude's 6-pack, but that's what you're looking forward to creating in your life. You want the 6-pack. If you want a house or you want to make a certain amount of money, if a part of your vision is to own a certain car, grab the image of that certain car, like that specific car, and then put it on your vision board. Then put together the collage of images and print it, and either buy a board, like you can get Amazon, you can buy a board and then paste it on the board, or you can just simply print it and then paste it, tape it on your wall where you can see it every day. Then on your devices like your phone or your computer, you could go on Canva, which is free, you could use it, and you could create the vision board there, like the images that you got, paste it on them, and then paste these images as your wallpaper on your phone and on your computer so that you see it every day. I know a lot of people be having their dog on their phone screen, but like bro, you see a dog every single day. At least see something in your phone that you're working towards, like the goal or the future that you're looking forward towards building. You already see your dog every day, okay? You don't have to see him again on your phone. The point of this is to be able to see the vision every single day. The point is to remind you that this is the future that you're working towards. This is where you're heading towards. And with a strong vision, it can make you unstoppable by pulling you towards it and eliminating anything that gets in the way of that vision. This next step is just as important, but many people overlook it and they think that they can get away with it, but it just doesn't work in the long term. Not doing this step won't allow you to make your vision a reality. You see, anybody can create a vision, a goal, and a plan to achieve it, but most people do this at the beginning of every year, and guess what? According to the University of Scranton, 92% of people fail to accomplish the New Year's resolutions. You want to create a vision, but you don't want to leave it on the shelf like that book that you bought but you never opened or read it. You don't want to end up at the end of the year looking back and it's like, bro, like I didn't work on my goals, I didn't work on this vision, and now you're with all this regret because of the time that you wasted. You want to put in the work to get closer to that vision, and part of that work is getting rid of the things that are chaining you, that are keeping you from moving forward. The chains of habit are too weak to be felt until they are too strong to be broken. That is one of the most powerful things that I ever heard. The next step is to replace your bad habits. I used to have a lot of bad habits, but the major ones were like porn, scrolling mindlessly for hours, playing video games until my eyes hurt, my eyes were stinging, and binge watching Netflix. But instead of getting rid of these habits, I replaced them with better habits, with good habits. That way I still received the dopamine that my brain was seeking, but the difference now is that I was getting real dopamine, the dopamine that will actually help me in my life in the long term. The younger you are, the bigger the advantage you have, which is time. And so the younger you could start practicing good habits, the bigger the payoff will be later on. I talked more about this in the last video that I made on how to break bad habits. I really went deep on how to break them. So if you haven't watched that one, go ahead and check it out. Now, if you don't get this next step right, it will mess up the entire process altogether. I would say this is one of the most important things you need to look out for and be mindful of in your life because of how impactful it really is. You can create the vision for your future. You could break the bad habits and create better ones. But if you are around people who are negative all the time and they don't have any positive vision for their future self, and they're constantly practicing bad habits all the time, they're going to influence you to live a similar lifestyle, and this is going to deter you from the path that you're on towards building that future that you want to live, and eventually you're going to end up living a similar lifestyle like them. A person who recently quit drugs cannot continue to hang out with people who still do drugs, because eventually they're going to fall back to their old ways. One of the most popular things that Jim Rohn said is, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. The next thing you must do is be mindful of the people that you spend time with. Closely evaluate the lives of your closest friends and see if they are headed towards a similar future as you, or at least are working towards a better future for themselves and are not leading towards a degenerate path. Is their attitude a growth mindset, or do they have a victim mentality all the time? If they are negative, then you need to slowly separate yourself from them. This is a requirement. This is mandatory, because if not, they're going to affect you in a negative way, because people are always influencing you. The amount of lives that have been ruined because of bad associations is actually insane. I've actually even witnessed this myself throughout school. I remember there was this one kid who came to my school and he was new, and because he was associated with a certain group, he got jumped. You know, there was a whole big problem, but like I have literally witnessed people's lives get ruined because they were hanging out with the wrong crowd or with the wrong people. So once you change your associations and your friends, your life will change. This final tip is so feared and avoided, but it's the only way that you will eventually achieve your vision and goals. Again, there are 2 types of people. One thinks failure is taking a loss, making a mistake, or not reaching the goal at the time they intended to. This person never really tries or commits because he fears making a mistake or losing. He suffers a lot from analysis paralysis and stays stuck in the same spot. The second person though thinks failure is not trying, so he tries, experiments, makes mistakes, but corrects course and moves forward, eventually accomplishing his goals. When Thomas Edison would fail multiple times while working on the light bulb, he would say, "I have not failed, I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work." The final tip is to fail a lot. Obviously the goal is not to fail, right? I'm not telling you that you should intentionally go out there and try to fail. No, like you should try to succeed, but the main message is to accept that you will fail a lot. Once you accept that you're gonna fail a lot and that you're gonna make mistakes, it will actually allow you to take action and not fear taking action in general. When you create your plan, take calculated risk, and just go. And when you do fail, analyze why, break down what happened and adjust your approach, and then try it again. Each failure teaches you something new, making every mistake that you make after much more effective. All of these steps that I just talked about in this video will help you take full advantage of your youth. The decisions that you make right now will shape how your future looks like. It doesn't matter where you are right now, no matter how messed up your situation might be right now. You might be lonely, depressed, you might not have any future to look forward to. It doesn't matter where you are right now. What matters is where you intend to be in the future. The effort that you put in won't go unnoticed. It never has for anyone. Your future is being dictated by what you do after you're done watching this video. Shape it how you envision it to be. But anyways, that's all I gotta say. I'm out.